Meat City, baby.
Hello and welcome back to Meat City Gaming. JD here with another episode of Pivot Point here in World of Tanks. And yes, I have enjoyed my brief sabbatical from World of Tanks after the latest premium tank grind, the Boilermaker. I don't know about you, but for me, that was one of the toughest ones just in terms of the mental grind to get through it. I don't know why I thought going into that grind it was going to be an easier one, but man, it really took a lot out of me. But I've taken a couple of days off. I have recovered. I am rejuvenated, and we're ready to get back into some World of Tanks action. So today I have a pivot point video for you, and it's been a little while since I've had these. Basically, the point of the pivot point series is to show not necessarily a good individual battle, although this is a pretty good performance for me in the E50, but more to highlight a scenario in the game or more than one scenario in the game where there's a decision to be made, and depending on how that decision gets made, that will greatly influence the outcome of the battle. So I'm going to highlight a couple of scenarios, and you'll see how they turn out in this battle, and hopefully the lesson that you'll learn from watching it unfold in this battle may be of use to you when you find yourself in a similar situation in one of your own battles in your own games. So we'll get to that. It happens a little bit later in the game. For now, we are in a nice little position here on steps in the E50. This is the Tier 9 German medium tank. I really enjoy this tank. I do have it fully upgraded at this point, and I'm trying to secure, this is an aggressive position for this tank. I'm trying to secure this flank here. I like to dig in here, and if I have a tank with any kind of decent armor, I like to do a little side scraping and hold on to this corner. And I think that I should be pretty immune from the T-34 if I maintain good angling on my armor. And wow, was that an amazing shot. Did that go into my turret ring? I think that's the only way he could have damaged me with a regular shot there, unless it was high explosive, but the damage seemed too high for that to be a high explosive shot from that T-34. So regardless, I've lost half my hit points now without doing too much damage to the enemy team. And there we go, another shot into the rear. That's a Tier 9 medium tank, and things are looking really bad for me early on here. I got tracked. Thankfully, they did not come up to finish me off. Here comes the Object 430 as well. They're both poking. I'm trying to get my armor angled. That one goes just over the rear of my tank, thank goodness, or that would have put me on extremely low health. I probably would have survived the hit, but not much more. And now again, I'm trying to side scrape, angle my armor effectively. One thing the E50 has going for it is a lot of side armor. And at the same time, I'm trying to hold off, but also put in some effective fire. And here we go. There's the T-34. I get a little revenge with a nice shot into the rear of that tank. And we're almost reloaded. I can definitely pen the side of his turret, but I don't have a chance to do so. Instead, we'll poke down, and we've got the Centurion 7-1. We put one into his fuel tank, and if we can do that again, we might be able to set him on fire, which would be great for some extra damage because we really are in trouble here on this flank. And yes, we do. We get a second one into the fuel tank. He burns nicely and finishes off for our first kill of the game. We've still got this Tier 9 medium tank, the Patton here, on full health. We are able to put one in, and now we've got some help. Another fire gets set, and thankfully we were able to hold off long enough for our allies to swarm over here and help us out. So, taking a look at the map, this is kind of the first decision point. We've got a lot of tanks over here, but they're a bit slow. We've won this flank. The enemy are definitely going to win the other flank. So, we could push in en masse, grab the cap, and probably win outright with a really early cap here. But it looks like 3, 4, 5 of my allied tanks are going to do that. So instead, I decided to go back and make sure we don't get quick capped on our own because it looks like our western flank is about to fall as well. So the scores are close. We're only up to one tank now. There is at least one tank defending. I saw there was a T-95 on the enemy list. That's a tough tank to dig out. So rather than fight a prolonged battle near their cap, I decided to fall back and try and defend our base. And I can use my mobility in the E50 to do that. And while we're doing that, we were able to sneak a nice shot into the Lycan T-71, and we eliminate that premium American light tank from the game, and once again secure a one-tank advantage, and we get our second kill of the match. So again, I'm trying to come back here, provide some support, and I'm looking for enemy tanks on the enemy team that are going to push into our base from that flank that they just won. But we're not seeing too many of them. Instead, we have the RU-251. That's the German Tier 8 light tank. He takes a big hit, and now he is on extremely low health. And here we can see that there's the T-95 that he's dug in. So we have some range here. We're not going to damage that tank from the front, but if we can get one into the rear of the side of that tank, that's where the fuel tanks are. That's where this tank is vulnerable. But this is really long range, and it's tough to judge by the silhouette exactly what way he's facing and exactly where those fuel tanks are. But it's about that area there, and yes, that goes in and also does damage his ammo rack. So a great little sniped shot in. But now look again at the mini-map, and the enemy did the same thing. They all fell back to defend their cap. They did the same thing I did, but they came back in a group. And so now there's this fair fight happening back at their cap circle, and I'm back here defending against pretty much nobody. So there's the T-54E1, a American autoloader at tier 9, and we put one in his direction, but he's still got a lot of his health left. So that's another dangerous tank that we're going to have to deal with. Thankfully, the accuracy on this gun is pretty good for a 105 millimeter caliber gun. So we had one shot into the Centurion 1. Are we going to reload in time? We do. We track him and we ammo rack him. A great shot. And we're going to take a blind shot here, hoping he hasn't repaired his track. Boom, it does. It goes in and finishes off the Centurion for our third kill of the game. But man, look at these scores. This is a close game, 10-10. In terms of kills, it's going to go right down to the wire, folks. A lot of games, you don't have to worry about this kind of stuff. It's a steamroll one way or the other. But in these close ones, they happen once in a while. And when it's on your shoulders to carry the game, to finish it off, it can be stressful. So hopefully you see something like this. If you find yourself in one of these situations, you'll be able to make a decision on the move that benefits your team and not worry about choking the moment away. So we get a great snapshot. The E50, the velocity on the shells is fantastic. And that shot traveled in super fast to get our fourth kill there on a tank that was moving across the face of our tank. Now here, I'm kind of YOLOing. I'm trying to save my ally. I think I can take a hit, and I know that that T-54E1 could only take one hit from me. So I go flying in there, and not only do I get rid of him, but I don't even take a hit doing so. So that's 5 kills, 1 away from our top gun, and now we've got the advantage. 3 tanks plus an artillery against 2 tank destroyers and an artillery. The unfortunate thing is we're a little bit spread out. So there's 2 of us up here, and AMX-30 on almost full health. So what would be really great is if he could advance, take the first hit for me, so that I can then come in and support, because if I take a hit from a big enough gun, I could be eliminated. But it would have to be a really big gun. I've got 575 hit points left. So we're looking to remove one of these tanks now, and it looks like the T-95 is pointing the wrong way. We're able to put one in, finish him off, and now we're aiming for the artillery. And I know the last tank left on the enemy team is a T-30, so we're aiming for this M4043. We put one in, and I'm pulling back, ready to go for my second shot here. If I finish him off, we should be in really good shape, and oh no. That T-30 finished me in one hit. Look at what he could see of my tank. Barely anything, but he goes through the turret, and I get devastated. So now, and there was also a second kill there in short succession. So now it's 2v2, a tank on each team and an artillery on each team. We have this AMX-30 left, plus the artillery, against that T-30 and his friendly artillery. So right now, our AMX has speed on his side and not much else. Also, the hit point battle is about even. And there he takes a big hit from the T-30, and in return just gets a small splash damage from our friendly artillery. So what we need to do right now, as the AMX-30 needs to do, is spot the enemy, let our artillery get some damage in, and not take a hit in return, right? Use the mobility, use the view range, get some hits in, get some support in, but not take a hit. We just need to be mobile and use our mobility and low profile to our advantage. So here he's good. He backs off, lights up the tank, backs off, but it's a 2-on-1 situation. The enemy artillery is kind of approaching for a shotgun, and the T-30 is approaching from the side here. So the artillery on the enemy team goes for it, and now we're going to pause the video right here. So thankfully, our friendly AMX there was able to eliminate the enemy artillery. If the enemy artillery hadn't crested the ridge there and created that situation, I'm not sure how our guy could have handled this, but the enemy artillery was a little bit too quick to engage. But because he provided that opportunity, now we have a great chance here. It's 2v1, the AMX versus the T-30 with artillery support. And the position that they're in, there's this rock between the T-30 and the AMX. So all he needs to do now is play the peekaboo game. We don't need to do damage. Let the artillery do that. The T-30 is slow, so just keep the rock between you and him, circle around, keep him lit up, and let our friendly artillery splash in the damage. Do that, and we should be able to win. So let's see what happens here. We're going to resume the video and see how this goes. So the AMX-30 is backing up, and now he realizes, okay, I'm going to get up close to the rock, and our friendly artillery just fired, so there's going to be a bit of a delay here. But instead of pulling back, oh, he pokes too much and gets eliminated. And wow, that was disappointing. So keep in mind, if you're going to pause, we're paused again here. If you're in that situation, use the strength of your tank. There was no need to poke up over the ridge there and provide the opportunity for that T-30 to do damage. Use the mobility, play ring around the rock, and if you have a chance to go downhill, pick up some speed, and disengage even farther to get farther away from the T-30, do that. Doing what happened there was a mistake and cost our AMX-30 his tank. So now, let's take a look at this situation that we have. It's a friendly artillery versus a nearly full health T-30. There's no way you're going to win that in a stand-up fight if you're the artillery, right? But know your tank, know your enemy. It's a French artillery piece that we have on our team, and it's a T-30 on the other team. So the advantage that we have is speed. The French artillery is very, very quick, and the American Tier 9 tank destroyer, the T-30, is pretty slow. So position on the map, the T-30 is closer to our base than the artillery is to their base, but with the speed difference, it should make a difference. So the only way that I think in this situation our friendly artillery is going to win the match is by capping. And we need to cap early enough before the T-30 caps our base. So he's going to need to sprint from here to the enemy base without getting spotted and get there before the T-30 does in return. So we're going to restart the video and see how this goes. If you're in a medium tank or if you're in a light tank in this one-on-one situation, the advantage you'll probably have is view range. You can post up in a bush, try and spot the T-30 before they spot you, put a shot in, pull back, and do the same thing once or twice before the T-30 gets into position, and hopefully you'll whittle them down to a one-shot where you're able to win the game. But right now as an artillery, that's not going to happen. Yes, the artillery might get the first spot if they hide in a bush, but the one shot from this French artillery is not going to take out that T-30, and if you fire, you'll get spotted, the T-30 will take you out, and it'll be game over. So our artillery is doing the right thing in that they are going for the enemy cap, but they're taking a really circuitous route. It might be too cautious to get there in time, because if the enemy starts capping first, well, you know you're not going to win. So you need to be aware of that. So I think our artillery is doing the right thing, getting there as quickly as possible, but maybe taking a route that's a little bit too cautious. Yes, if you get spotted, the jig may be up and you're not going to be able to pull off the win. But if the T-30 gets into the cap first, then you know it's going to be a loss. So the artillery is driving down this alley here, and now is going to do a sharp turn up to the left. Again, think of the route that was taken here. There was a lot of cut that could have been made to try and get to there a lot quicker. And also, we can see the artillery is trying to see if the T-30 was defending the base, but a tank destroyer against an artillery, you know the tank destroyer is going to be going for our base, right? They're not going to sit back and wait for the artillery to show up. If it was, another heavy tank, maybe that would be the case. But now we can see it's the worst case scenario. The T-30 did go to our base, and they're in there first, and the artillery now just goes into the cap circle, and that's not going to do it, folks. French artillery does not have a very impressive splash radius, so I guess you can try and splash a couple of random shots into the cap circle. If you had a really big artillery with a big splash radius, maybe that would be a good thing to do. But there's a minute left on the cap timer for the enemy's cap. So here again, what I would suggest doing, run back, try to get to a bush that's going to see the cap circle, that you'll spot them, that you won't get spotted, and try to put a splash in where you can put in a hit, spot the enemy through the bush, put in a hit, and then withdraw. Get them to come out of the cap circle, and if they chase you, then you'll be able to run away and maybe run and start the cap before they're able to get there. Again, I'm not trying to criticize either the AMX-30 or the French artillery player on my team. They both did as well as they could. It's a stressful situation. I died myself, so who am I to talk? I'm just trying to highlight this scenario so that if you see it in your game, you have some ideas on what can work and what may not work based on the similarities that you'll see here. So yes, the French artillery does reload pretty quickly, so we got quite a few random shots into the cap circle, but as you can see, it was not enough to get the reset, and this turns out to be a loss for the Allied team. So a bit disappointing, but from every battle, there are things that can be learned, and I thought this was a good one to try and highlight a couple of things that can be learned there. So a great game personally for the E50, 5,000 damage, a top gun, all that's great, but it did not result in a win. I was a little bit careless, I think, at the end there, trying to take out that artillery after my first shot. Didn't finish it off, and the big gun on that T-30 was enough to remove the hit points that I had remaining on my tank. So a small miscalculation by me, and then a couple of mistakes there late in the game in those 2v2 situations, and the enemy team gets the win. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that. Hopefully it was kind of an interesting way to kind of take a look at a battle and some scenarios and how they unfold. And maybe there'll be some lessons there that you'll be able to apply when you have those games that come down to the wire and you're one of the few tanks remaining against a few tanks on the enemy team. Those are the ones that make World of Tanks special, right? And when you're in those situations, keep your wits about you. Know the strengths of your tank, know the weaknesses of your enemy tanks, and use that to your advantage to give yourself the best chance to win. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that. If you did, please feel free to like and subscribe for future videos. And as always, thank you for joining me, and I'll see you next time.